Without any more discussion, let's get started. And I'd like to introduce Mark Linnae.
I learned, it actually touches me personally, which I'll come back to in a second. But I did learn a lot about it just in reading some of the material, getting ready for today. I think one of the first things is 16 years, and it's one of the great things about America. That we have such a thing as a Disabilities Act. I can't tell you if other countries have a similar. I'm sure some do, some don't. But I think in many ways, having accommodations for people with disabilities has become somewhat second nature to us, which is a good thing. There's still obviously a lot of work to do in many parts of business and society in general, but it's a great country that we live in that has this kind of an act and drives this kind of legislation to accommodate people. Just to recap, the act provides equal opportunity to access employment and public accommodations for people with disabilities, and that employers must make reasonable accommodations to the physical and mental limitations of people with disabilities. It reminds me, I was visiting our dealer in Green Bay, Wisconsin. A great dealer group. He's actually a big Chevrolet dealer and Cadillac dealer throughout. He has many locations throughout the state of Wisconsin. And he's on the board. The Green Bay Packers are a publicly owned company. And so they have a board of directors, and he's on the board. That's who runs the Green Bay Packers. And they just renovated their stadium. And he went through and showed me the accommodations for people with disabilities. They didn't have any before. It's like an 80-year-old stadium. And now, it is unbelievable, the accommodations that they have for folks with disabilities to be able to attend football games, which if you've ever been to Green Bay, that's like the only thing to do there that's other than freeze to death, okay? And I think he said it cost $80 million to put those accommodations into place. So I think, and he wasn't complaining, he was very proud of it, and I think it's testimony in one small way to some of the progress that's been made. Certainly at GM, we're totally supportive of this, of the act, of accommodating people with disabilities and turning it into an advantage, just much like other diverse groups that we have in terms of ethnicity or gender or anything else, is leveraging those people as a competitive advantage for the company, and I think we're getting better and better at that. The specific goal of this Affinity Group, obviously we want to generate awareness, educate people throughout GM, throughout others outside of the General Motors family, and drive actions to make our company and our customers, a better place to work and to do business with for folks with disabilities. This is one of many affinity groups throughout GM. Some of the accomplishments to date is driving changes in GM facilities. We're trying to implement a certification program at the dealership level. A lot of our dealerships, the physical footprint, we got a lot of newer facilities, and they all have accommodations, but we have a lot of facilities that are quite frankly 50, 60 years old. And for the employees of those dealerships and for our customers, we certainly want to have accommodations to be easy to do business with, and actually a preferred place to either work or do business with, and that's going to be a significant focus as we continue to work with our dealers on becoming world-class in every respect, and hopefully we'll make really good progress on that. There's an ongoing mentoring activity that's associated with this group that we want to accelerate in 06, and continuing the great work of interest in educating others like this forum today. So this is our second, I guess last year you held a similar program, Renee, to celebrate the Disabilities Act. And just a couple of statistics on how critical this effort is. 54 million, that number startled me. 1 in 5 Americans have disabilities. So this is not a tiny group, this is a significant group. 30 million are of working age, and despite all the progress that I mentioned earlier, which I think we should be proud of, 70% are not employed, and that's a statistic that has to change. My two sons, I have twin sons that are 14 years old, and one is moderately autistic and covered by the Disabilities Act. The other one is very high functioning autistic. The one that is moderately autistic goes to a special school in Garden City. We live in Northville, and it's a great school. And he has 5 kids in his class, a teacher and an aide. I'm sure it costs a fortune, to the state. The other one we pay to send to a private school that deals with kids with more mild disabilities. There's a bus that comes and picks him up every day for about a 45-minute ride to Garden City that has special accommodations. He's physically fine. He has a mental disability. And to me and to my family, I guess, you know, I can't relate as much to the physical disability, but just to a disability in general, it affects every part of your life. And in some regard, it changes your frame of reference, where, you know, small things that a lot of people take for granted when you accomplish them is like a big victory. You know, on the other hand, it makes everything harder. I mean, just everything is harder, and I have great, I think from that frame of reference, I don't know what the right word would be, respect, acknowledgement of just the challenges that folks with disabilities face, and I think that the more we can do collectively, you know, in our world, with the GM and our dealers and our customers, to accelerate progress, to promote awareness, and to really tap into the potential of this huge body of people who are all, I would imagine, you know, every disability is slightly different, you know, in some way. I think is something that certainly we got to continue to stay after, and I think certainly something that can be a great advantage for our company as we turn around our business and really position ourselves to be a great company for the next 100 years of our existence. So it's an honor to be here today. I'm interested in listening to some of the discussion, and certainly look forward to hopefully more interaction with all of you. Thank you very much.
Tim wanted me to talk about people with hidden disabilities. There's so many people out there, people don't know that they're disabled because they're not running around in a chair like this. And yet, I see it the other way. I think it's the disabled that are being left out of your advertising. You know, I really think part of the thing is people are afraid of us. I don't know how to treat you. I don't know if I'm going to do something wrong. And that, so consequently, in your advertising agencies, I'm talking about all of them, they don't see us as people. They see us as a problem. Oh God, I might embarrass him, I might not do it right or show it right. Rather than looking at like Jesse Jackson. Jesse went to Madison Avenue, and he told him, you know, you want to be on, no, he said, I want you to put us on the right way. You're putting us on in all the bad light. We're here, we're buyers, and he changed the whole scope of Madison Avenue for minority people. Well, I'd like to see that happen for people with disabilities. The disabilities aren't hidden, the disabled are hidden, and that's what we don't want. You have Target stores. Target, you go out there, you can see mannequins in the stores, and in their literature, they got people with disabilities, and you know, they're doing fine. They learn that these people don't have a problem. They go and they bring something to the story, or to the party, and yet they're still going strong. Kmart, they're gone. They're out of business, but Target knows what to do. And you see us as people. I buy refrigerators, I buy chewing gum, I buy toothpaste. I'm a consumer. And if you add up that 54 million mark, with the 35 million seniors, they're all disabled. They don't admit it until it comes to parking. Then they all want that permit. But it's a blessing for them too, and for anybody. And then we got another 30 million caregivers. I'm not alone. I have a wife and 6 children, and they take care of me when I was down, and same thing for most of the people here. Maria, she has an aide with her all the time. Many people, you know, do that. But we're all buying products. But we're left out because they don't know how to see us in a positive light. And I think that's our job. We have to get out and get more with it. Campbell Ewag, Young and Rubicon, and these people, get in their face and tell them about, we are doing good things. And we're, I got a magazine here, it's got 22 sports that we were part of in the local area here. Now I'm going to have my panel introduce themselves. I'll start with Luke Selly down there on the far right.
And I'm with the Disability Network up in Flint, Michigan. It's an advocacy organization for folks with disabilities. There are 15 other organizations like ours throughout Michigan and 300 across the U.S. And it's an honor to be here on this day. You know, the Americans with Disabilities Act it's more than a law. It's more than code. It's an idea. It's an idea that people have value. It's an idea that removing barriers to independence and to participation. And I'll tell you, a funny thing happens when you remove barriers for folks with disabilities. It benefits everybody. I don't know how many of you folks, when you're out walking in the community or you go into a store, sidewalks with curb cuts. They estimate for every curb cut that they put in, about 100 to 1,000 folks use that same curb cut each day. And they actually, notice where people are walking and they see a curb cut, they'll change direction to use a curb cut because it's a little bit easier. And that automatic door that opens for folks that use wheelchairs or may have difficulty opening the door, mothers with strollers, service delivery folks, all benefit from removing that barrier. So, on this day of the Americans with Disabilities Act, I mean, as you go home, as you go back to your offices, remember, it's an idea. It's an idea about removing barriers, not a specific disability, not a specific population. It's about removing barriers. The Disability Network, some of the things that we work on and advocate for, just 3 weeks ago, Governor Granholm signed an Inclusive Home Design Act in Michigan. And it's something that we collaborated with the Home Builders Association over a 2-year period. And what that's going to do is for any new home that's built using public dollars, 50% of those are going to be accessible or visitable to folks with disabilities. Today, if Roger wanted to come and visit some of your homes, he might not be able to get in. So this Inclusive Home Design Act is having one level entrance. It's having 32-inch doors instead of 28-inch doors. So it's just a bigger hole in the wall. Again, that's something that benefits everybody. And a bathroom on the first floor that has a turning radius that's just a little bit bigger. And again, the idea here is the benefit behind it of removing barriers. Some of the other things that we work on up in Flint at the Disability Network, access to transportation, access to education. A large part of what we do is with technology. And for folks that use computers every day, it's important, but for people with disabilities, it can be independence, it can be working from home, it can be shopping. You can have computers that read out what's on a screen to you for folks who might be blind or visually impaired, but that also helps folks with learning disabilities and folks with literacy issues. So again, there's lots of benefits when you remove barriers, and I encourage you as you go home, think about today and think about the ADA as an idea, a way of removing barriers.
Very good. How about Ron Bauer? Ron, would you, I'd like to introduce you and give your background.
I'm a learning specialist and counselor with Wayne State University. I've been there about 11 and a half years. And we're the Disability Support Service office at Wayne State. So any prospective student or current student who may have a disability and self-identifies and says, I like accommodations, more academic accommodations, they would come to our office. And we deal with all types of disabilities, from temporary, if someone breaks their hand and may need extra time or a scribe to take exams, to more permanent conditions. And we have much of the adaptive technology, as Luke stated earlier, such as voice recognition program, screen enlargement type of programs, and we put materials in adaptive type of formats for students who may need it on tape or a CD, and then use a screen reader and so forth to have it read to them, various things like that. Take exams in our office with extended time. So that's the purpose. And we also work with other offices on at the institution on how to, as we're all looking at here, making it more of a universal type design, which includes in teaching. And we're going to be shortly springboarding a liaison program with the colleges and so forth, so that in a sense to enhance more the teaching of the instructors with the students, so that they're more aware of disabilities and how they can make their teaching techniques more universal.
Thank you very much, Jade. Next we have Debbie Wilson.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Wilson. I'm a rehabilitation counselor for the Michigan Commission for the Blind. I've been a rehab counselor for 12 years. The main goal for the Commission for the Blind, we're a government agency, we're federally funded. One is independent living for persons who are blind or visually impaired, but you have to be legally blind in order to be eligible for our services. The other goal is employment, and that is usually I'm working with an individual to locate employment for them. Our population is aging, and so therefore we're seeing a lot of more, incidents of persons who are visually impaired. Just from the aging process, there are various eye conditions and that one can acquire. So a lot of times when we work with people, they're afraid to just even go to their own mailbox, or they can't read their mail anymore. So we try to find equipment or accommodations that can help them to be as independent as possible. We'd rather see that person, if it's their choice, live independently, so they can have their own household and just have pride in themselves.
Back to that advertising with Young and Rubicam and J. Walter Thompson, the rest of them. Why do you think we're not with them? Or they're not with us?
Up in two things I'd probably say is I couldn't agree more that companies and organizations, there's tremendous value to including folks with disabilities in advertisements. There was a study that was done back when they had the Olympics in Atlanta, and 57% of folks paid attention and noticed when people with disabilities were included in advertisement. 57%. 38% would actually change brands if you marketed towards them, if you included folks with disabilities in those ads. So that's 38% of folks that would change brands. And when you talk about, Roger, families and friends, Fortune had done an article a while back that you can reach 4 out of 10 families by using and incorporating folks with disabilities. But I think one of the biggest barriers is that fear of people with disabilities, fear of the ADA, fear of lawsuits.
Thank you, Luke. Ron, again, that figure that Mark was mentioning, the unemployment for people with disabilities, 70%. Can you talk to that?
I can give you an example of that. Most recent, you had a young lady on this panel last year, Jessica Parks. Jessica was born without arms. She does absolutely everything with her feet, puts her contact lens in. She was going to a high school that out of fear, because of the liabilities, wouldn't let her get involved in sports. She wanted to play soccer, she wanted to be a cheerleader, she wanted to do things, she wanted to drive a car. She moved to our community. I was on the school board, and her parents called me and said that she wanted to play soccer and go out for cheerleading, and we saw absolutely no reason for her not to do that. So she was featured on 2020. She was a varsity cheerleader. UAW and GM was kind enough to work with her, and she ended up in a vehicle when she graduated from high school. I worked with a trainer in Bay City. He came out to test her driving skills and give her some training. It was in February on slippery, icy roads and snowing out, and he put her in a Buick LeSabre. He brought a trunk load of adaptive equipment, and he was going to adapt that car with whatever she needed to drive. The state of Michigan, the Secretary of State, said she couldn't drive without severe restrictions on her license. She needed a steering wheel on the floor. They gave her a lot of things. She drove that car with no equipment, and he said she drove it aggressively but defensively. And after 50 hours of driving, she went to the Secretary of State's office. They didn't give her her license. We made some phone calls. She went back. She got her license. She was presented with a car. She's still driving it. She's had one accident. A deer ran into the car. She didn't run into it. She did hit a turkey, busted her windshield. But she's going to college. They told her she'd never go to school. She couldn't live on her own. She's living independently at Oakland University. She's a junior. She's majoring in business and accounting. She's working 2 jobs. And she went out, where I'm going with this, she went out this this early spring to look for an internship. And she interviewed at several businesses. She used me for a reference as well as some other people. I had calls from 2 companies. I urged them to give her the benefit of a doubt. Listen to her, let her tell them how she can do the job that they have offered.
And some still don't know that options. I mean, we still have some counselors, I'm afraid to say that in K through 12 that no, this is your limit. You know, don't try to do anything else, even with all the laws. And so we do various things of events and so forth. We're trying to piggyback, so to speak. Michigan State is a leader right now with the sports. We're going to have an event in September, a wheelchair basketball event on campus as part of our Welcome Back Week. And we tried last year to get a wheelchair basketball class going. We're hoping this will help to springboard it in going, because we want not only the students currently at our institution to participate, but also too for individuals living in the community, so that with disabilities they can see what their options are, that you know that you can be going to college and you can go ahead and
I want to add, I forgot when I was talking about the ADA and personal responsibility. Even though the employer, I think that goes along with the statistics as far as the rate of employment, even though the employer provides accommodations, people with disabilities have to be reminded that they have some personal responsibilities as well. Let's say, for instance, if your employer provides one piece of equipment that you need, then, you know, be prepared to spend, you know what I'm saying, if it's something that you can afford for yourself, to be able to maintain that employment. So, you know, so I think, I think those things, and even on the job, do as much as you can do. You know what I'm saying? Don't expect somebody, you know, to be doing everything for you. Do as much as, you know, as you can do. So I think that goes into the statistics as far as employment, why employers think they're going to have to do everything for the person, you know, or the liability like we, you know, mentioned before. So I think, and even if it's a stagnant job market, or it goes back to the individual, I think, impairment or not, if you have the desire to do something, and you know, you can find a way to do it. You may have to do it differently, but it is possible.
I'm going to challenge each of our agencies to give me an idea on an ad that fits into their brand, their launches, their product, their customer focus, that we can hopefully have 1 or 2 executions on air by next year. So I'm going to ask for that specifically. We'll go upstairs. And on this issue of wheelchair basketball, I just want to say I played football at the University of Virginia, and we did a charity event, 5 or 6 of us football players against a team that was like college level wheelchair basketball. They beat us 100-10, and I couldn't walk for a week, or I couldn't move my arms for a week. So they deserve every scholarship they get, trust me. So it's been, you know, it's been a pleasure, and we're going to get on this advertising issue, I promise you.